Bam ba bam 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 ba bam 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 ba 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 bam bam ba bam bam. What's up, everybody? For today's video, I'll be providing you guys with some Gibraltar tips. This will be the start of a new segment that works directly with my Bronze and Master series. As you guys know, in the Bronze and Master series, I provide you guys with an assessment and my thoughts with every legend. But I don't really give you guys concrete tips on how to play that legend. So if you've watched those videos and you're interested in playing a particular legend, then you should come to watch these videos to help you figure out how to properly play said legend. These tips are essentially for beginners, players that are brand new to the game, or for players that are brand new to a certain legend. And it might eventually help you decide what legend you should main. So here are the best Gibraltar tips for dummies. We're gonna first get started off with his passive. Gibby has a gun shield that absorbs 50 damage. Any damage greater than that will destroy his gun shield and bleed through your armor and health. Gun shield is only activated when you're aiming down sights. And so the tip that I would like to discuss in regards to his passive has to do with aiming down your sights at all times. Very rarely are you going to want to hip fire using Gibraltar. That's because every time you hip fire, you're not utilizing your gun shield, which is just silly. Why wouldn't you want to have an extra 50 health? So more often than not, as a Gibraltar main, you're going to want to ADS all the time. Or you could also ADS spam. This means pressing the ADS button, letting go of the ADS button, now you're hip firing, and then pressing your ADS button again. And this is super effective, especially when taking a 1v1 using Gibby, and it makes it very difficult for the enemy to kill you. Let's say you initially ADS and you bring up your gun shield, and the enemy shoots your gun shield for 20, and then you let go of the ADS button, now you're hip firing, and now the enemy shoots you for, let's say, 50 armor, and then you press the ADS button again to bring up your gun shield that hasn't been destroyed yet. Now the enemy shoots you for an extra 30 damage, destroying your gun shield but preserving your health. As a Gibraltar, this ADS spam makes it insanely difficult for you to be killed, so it's something you should utilize often while playing Gibby. Moving on to his tactical. Gibraltar's tactical is a dome of protection that lasts 12 seconds, just long enough to pop a Phoenix kit. It is super versatile and has always been one of the strongest tacticals in the game. Let's talk about the different ways that you could utilize his bubble. My favorite way, and in my opinion the most effective way to use his bubble, is for aggressive pushes. This involves throwing the bubble towards the enemy, and this is something that enemies always have to respect because it provides your team with cover that otherwise may not have been there, and it also gives you a place of impenetrable refuge. And it'll force the enemy to either back up, which now puts them on the defense, or it forces them to meet you inside of the bubble. And if they do meet you inside of the bubble, now we have what's called a bubble fight. When it comes to bubble fighting using Gibby, it's very important to always use a shotgun of some sort. That's because when bubble fighting, you will be jiggle peeking or peeking inside and outside of the bubble quickly with only a split second of damage potential every time you peek. And the only gun in the game that can do massive amounts of damage in a split second are going to be shotguns. And so that's why it's important to use shotguns as Gibby. Another way that you can use his bubbles are for defensive reasons. A Gibby must always stay alive longer than his team. So anytime that you're weak, it's important to throw down your bubble at your feet to give you a safe place to heal up. Another way to use his bubbles are when your teammates are weak. And that's what makes playing Gibby a little difficult. Not only do you have to worry about yourself, but you have to worry about your teammates' health as well. And so if you can sense that your teammate's going to take a lot of damage, or if they're already weak, then you need to be throwing your bubble towards them as well to give them a safe place to heal up. And while playing Gibby, you kind of always want to stay next to your team, because on the off chance that your teammates get knocked, you need to be right next to them to throw down their bubble and get a revive off quickly, since as you all should know, he revives quicker in the bubble. And so that's another tip for defensive bubbles. Another example for defensive uses of his bubble is using his bubble to cut off lines of sight from the enemy. So instead of actually healing inside of the bubble, you can use his bubble as makeshift cover to run away, cutting off the enemy's line of sight on you, which buys you more time to reset. Another way that you can use his bubble is for rotation purposes. I want to get to point B, but currently right now I'm at point A, and in order to get from point A to point B, I have to run across an open field with no cover. So what I would do in that situation is throw my bubble halfway in between point A and point B to minimize the amount of damage that I take. And maybe I take a little damage when getting to my bubble. I would now use my bubble as an opportunity to heal up and then continue making my way to point B, which in this situation would give me the highest advantage of winning a fight or winning the game. You may also use his bubble to protect you while looting. If there's a loot box that you really need in the wide open and people are looking down at you, in this situation there's no reason for you to take damage. Simply throw your bubble down at the loot box and loot up safely. These are the most general bubble tips that I could think of, but understand that there are many more ways for you to use a bubble that I won't be mentioning, simply because they're very situational. The only thing I want you to remember is that there always needs to be a reason when using his bubble. Whether it's you're weak, your teammates are weak, you need to rotate and protect yourself from any damage, you need to revive your teammates, make sure there is a reason. Now on to his ultimate. His ultimate, just like his bubble, needs to have a reason for use, and it could be used in a variety of ways: aggressive, defensive, and rotational. When pushing a team that's on high ground, you should be using his ultimate in an aggressive fashion by ulting the top of the roof, forcing that team to vacate their high ground, or to simply eat it and take damage and be stunned. It'll also provide visual and audio clutter, which makes it very easy for you to push that team. So if I'm pushing a team that's pissing me off, that's sitting on top of roof, using charge rifles, etc., I'm going to always ult them off of the roof, force them to the inside inside of the building and usually find a way to take their high ground now, because as we all know, high ground gives you the advantage. Another way that you can use his ultimate aggressively is either when you're fighting a team that has little cover, you can throw your ultimate at them to do major damage to them while giving you an opportunity to push up freely. Or maybe you have an isolated non-movement character that's very weak on the enemy team. Sometimes I'll use my ultimate just on that one person alone. Because they have no movement, they are not going to be able to escape my ultimate in time. They'll have to sit there and heal up or potentially die to my ult. Either way, it gives me an opportunity to push them. So if my ultimate doesn't kill them, then I'll kill them while they're taking damage or while they're being stunned. And if I'm ever pushing inside my own ultimate like that, I'll be sure to throw a bubble for myself so that I don't take any damage from it. And that's a very effective way to utilize both of his tactical and ultimate at the same time. You can also use his ultimate for defensive purposes as well. Maybe you got knocked or your teammates are knocked and you expect the enemy to be pushing you. Throw your bubble down and throw your ultimate immediately afterwards right at your feet. Since you're inside of your own bubble, you won't take any damage, but any enemy team that's trying to push you inside of your bubble while your ultimate's going off is going to either be stunned or damaged before they enter your bubble. And so most people won't push for that reason. And so it buys you and your team a little more time for you to heal up uncontested. And you can also use the same logic while you're inside of a building. Yes, your ultimate is not going to do any damage to anybody sitting inside the building, but to any enemies that are standing outside of the building trying to push you, it'll damage and stun them. And that's again effective for delaying the enemy's push. And lastly, you can use his ultimate for rotational purposes as well. Just like how I explained with his bubble. If I need to get from point A to point B and there's a team on point C high ground looking down at me, preventing me from rotating, I'll throw my ultimate at them to force them backwards so they no longer have an angle on me and make my rotation to point B using my bubble as well. Using that same logic, there are two enemy teams in an area and I have one team really weak, but if I push them, that means I'll get third party by the other team. I can use my ultimate to throw it at the third party to cut off their rotation and line of sight on us. And it gives me a window of about 10 seconds to go push that team that's really weak, kill them, heal up or armor swap, and then fight that third party. Just like with his bubble, there are many different ways to use his ultimate. The only thing I want you guys to understand is that there always needs to be a reason for you using it. This makes Gibby a high IQ legend, which is why he's not played often by lower skill individuals. But if you're in the lower ranks and you're struggling to gain RP, try using Gibby, because on top of everything else that I've mentioned, he can also craft banners, which helps minimize your average RP loss per game. And simply put, lower skill individuals have a hard time killing a Gibraltar. With all the utility he has plus fortified, your average player will struggle trying to fight a Gibby. Even pred/pro players struggle fighting Gibbies. Remember, if you haven't watched my Gibby's Bronze Master yet, go watch that right now. The link will be in the description. If you have any more questions about Gibby, go ahead and ask me in the comments. As always, please be sure to leave a like and comment. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Trying to get to 40,000 real soon. Thank you guys for watching. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam.